Hi ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're doing well. Today we are going to go over the surface area review so that you're prepared for the surface area quiz. So first off, I do want you to look through the review for the IXL skill EE3 under 6th grade. There's going to be 5 questions from that skill on the quiz, so see if you could go back and do a little bit of extra practice on that. Also, we had an activity where you were deciding which nets created a cube. There will be 3 questions on the quiz from that lesson. So if you could go over your notes just to be sure that you understand which ones make a cube, which nets don't. All right, so let's move on to question number 1. So the question, this part says, find the surface area of the following figures. So this is a net of a rectangular prism, and we're going to find the area of each of the pieces and then add all 6 areas up to find the surface area of this rectangular prism. So let's start with the rectangle on the right-hand side. The width here is 6, and I'm going to bring the 6 all the way across here because opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. I also notice here for the right-hand rectangle the length is 3.5, so we're going to multiply those two together, 3.5 times 6. And that's going to give us 21 as a product. So I know if this rectangle is 21, this middle piece must also be 21 because we looked at the shapes of nets and we know that there has to be at least one panel, well there has to be exactly one panel between them for the rectangles to be equal, right? So this could be the back of the box, that could be the front of the box, and this would be the right side and the left side. Okay, so we know that that other rectangle is also 21. I'm going to put a 21 in there. And I also know that because 3.5 is the length again and 6 is the width. Okay, so let's move on to the next rectangle to the left. And I know it has a length of 7.2 and a width of 6. So we're going to multiply 7.2 times 6 to give us 43.2. So I know if the area of that panel is 43.2, all the way over here must also be 43.2. And then the last 2 panels we're going to look at are 2 rectangles as the top rectangle and the bottom rectangle. And those 2 have to have the same area as well. Okay, so we know one of the width here is going to be 7.2, and the length is 3.5, because if the bottom is 3.5, that means the top of that rectangle must also be 3.5. So we're going to multiply 3.5 times 7.2. My writing is not so neat here. Let me just put it on the side. 3.5 times 7.2. And that gives us an area of 25 and 2/10, or 25.2. So again, if we know the top is 25.2, the bottom must also be 25.2. So let's find the surface area now and add all of those together. We have 2 groups of 25.2. We have 2 groups of 21. And we have 2 groups of 43.2. And we're going to add all those together. Well, the 25.2, double that, it's going to give us 50.4. If I double 21, that gives us 42. And doubling 43.2 gives us 86.4. So let's add those together. And that's a surface area of 178 and 8/10 centimeters squared. All right, on to number 2. This is a net of a cube. So if we find the area of one of the faces, all 6 faces are the same. So if I'm looking at this square on the top here, it has a length of 12 and a width of 12. 12 times 12 is 144. So all of those squares have an area of 144. So to find the surface area, we're going to multiply 144 times those 6 faces. We have 6 groups of that. And that gives us 864 meters squared for the surface area. On to number 3, this is a triangular prism. So as I'm looking over here on the right hand side, I notice that width there is 7. So I'm just going to bring the 7 all the way across. It's going to help us find the area of each of the rectangles. So it has a width of 7 and a length of 5 for this rectangle on the right-hand side. So that gives us an area of 35. For the middle rectangle, we have a width of 3 or we'll call it a length, sorry, and a width of 7. It doesn't really matter because when I multiply them, we'd get 21 no matter what. And then we have a length of 4 and a width of 7 for the rectangle on the left. That's 28 for the area. So the last step here is to find the area of the triangles. We need the base and the height. The base is 3 because if this bottom part of the rectangle is 3, that means the top is also 3. So I'm going to put a 3 in here for the base. And then we need to find the height as well. The height is 4 because these two sides or edges are going to meet up and connect to each other when I fold up that rectangular prism, the net for it, to make the 3D shape. So the height is 4. So to find the area, we're going to do 4 times 3 and then divided by 2, which is 6. So the area of both of those triangles is 6. In the last step, we want to add all of it together. So we have 35 plus 21 plus 28, and 6 and 6 is 12. So that's a surface area of 96 centimeters squared. All right, on to number 4, we have a square pyramid here. And again, we're going to find the area of each of the shapes and then add all the areas together. So let's start with the square inside. It has a side length of 5. So 5 times 5 gives us an area of 25 for the square. And then let's find the area of one of the triangles. I'm going to look at the one on the left here. From the top to the bottom of that triangle, that would be the base of the triangle. And the height would be the dotted line here that goes from the base all the way to the vertex there. So the height is 8. Right? So the area of this whole triangle would be 5 times 8 divided by 2, which is 40 divided by 2, or 20. So each of the triangles has an area of 20. So now let's find the surface area. We have 4 groups of 20, and then we'll add the area of the square as well, 25. So that's 80 plus 25, which is 105 inches squared. All right, number 5. So here's our 3-dimensional rectangular prism. We're going to use a formula this time to solve it. If you prefer, you can draw a net out and then just put in all the dimensions along the side and find the area of each piece if you prefer that strategy. Otherwise, the formula we're going to use is 2 times the length times width plus 2 times the width times the height plus 2 times the length times the height. So I'm going to call 7.5 the length, 7 1/3 the height, and 3 1/4 the width. So I'm going to substitute our numbers in here. So we'd have 2 times 7.5, which is the length, times 3 1/4 the width. Then we have 2 times 3 1/4 times 7.3. And then the last part here, 2 times 7.5 times 7.3. And I would suggest finding the product of all 3 sections first and then adding those products together. So the product of 2, 7.5, and 3 1/4 is 48 and 75/100ths. Product of 2 times 3 1/4 times 7.3 is 47 and 45/100ths. And the product of 2 and 7.5 and 7 3/10 is 109 and 5/10. And the last step, we're going to add all those together. And so our surface area is 205 and 7/10. All right, number 6 here. Again, another rectangular prism. We're going to use our formula, same as we just did, 2 times length times width, plus 2 times width times height, plus 2 times length times height. So I'm going to say 4 is the length, 5 is the width, and 3 is the height. So let's substitute in. So 2 times 4 times 5, plus 2 times 5 times 3, plus 2 times 4 times 3. Again, I'm going to find the product of each of these parts and then add them together. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. And then we're going to add all those together to give our surface area of 94 inches squared. And our last one here, this is a cube. So the formula we can use here, we could use the same one as we did before for the rectangular prism. And in this case, you'd be substituting 2 in for the length, width, and height. Or we can do 6 times the area of one of the faces, which would be the side times the side, or side squared. So let's substitute our side length in here. 6 times 2 squared. And the exponent here has to happen first. So 2 times 2 is 4. So we would have 6 times 4, which is 24. So our surface area for the cube is 24 centimeters squared. And our last question here, number 8. I'm thinking of buying an aquarium for my home. The sides and top are made of glass, while the bottom is made of plastic. The aquarium is 20 inches long, 10 inches wide, and 12 inches tall. Part A. How many cubic inches of water will fit in the aquarium? So if we're asking for how much space is filled up with water, that's the volume, cubic inches. So we're going to use the formula volume equals length times width times height. And we're going to substitute a length of 20, a width of 10, and a height of 12. And just multiply through, so that's 200 times 12, which is 2,400 inches cubed, or cubic inches of water. Part B, how many square inches of glass were used to make the aquarium? So here we can use our formula again. 2 times length times width, plus 2 times width times height, plus 2 times length times height. And I'm going to substitute in here. The length we said was 20, the width is 10, and the height is 12. So 2 times 20 times 10, plus 2 times 10 times 12, plus 2 times 20 times 12. Running out of space, sorry. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and multiply here. 2 times 20 is 40. 40 times 10 is 400. 2 times 10 is 20. 20 times 12, 240. And 2 times 20 is 40. 40 times 12 is 480. And then we're going to add all of that up together. It's 1,120 inches squared. However, in the problem we were told the bottom is made up of plastic. So that means we need to remove the plastic area from the surface area. So the bottom is made up of a length of 20 and a width of 10. So the area of the bottom is 10 times 20, or 200 square inches. So we need to remove that area, because that's plastic, from the whole surface area. So 1,120 minus 200 is 920 inches squared, or square inches of glass are used to make that aquarium. All right, if you have questions, message me please on Google Classroom, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Have a good rest of the day.